Hello friends, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you are already a subscriber, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for your continued support. Please make sure you hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Both of those things really help my YouTube channel grow, and I really appreciate your support. So today I'm going to be playing with some of the gel prints that I created in a previous video. I will pop that up above so you guys can check it out if you have not seen that video yet. I am going to be using those prints that I made to create embellishments and to help layers and just so many different things. So the first thing that I did was trim down this white cardstock, and I put it on a piece of yellow basil cardstock. And now I'm using some Dina Wakley clear gesso. Y'all, this gesso is the bomb. This is the first time that I used it and I absolutely love it. It goes on just so smooth, and I love that it's clear. So here is the background, one of the backgrounds that I created with my gel press, and it is a rainbow background. And so I had this idea in my head. I saw a layout on Pinterest that was just different pattern papers layered up going across the page. I'm trying to think of my words here. And the papers, the pattern papers were 12 by 12 and they went all the way across, all the way down to the top and the bottom of the page. And I knew that I didn't want to do that, but I did want to do some kind of strips of layers with these, with the background, I guess, with the rainbow background. I wanted to create a rainbow effect. And so y'all will see here in a minute what I do. And so this is another print that I created just with yellow paint. I know I was just playing around. And so I am using one of my Catherine Puller stamp sets to stamp out some flowers. And that is one of my very favorite flower stamps. I use it all the time. I just really love the way that they look. They have leaves as well, which y'all will see in a minute what I do. And I also have the dies for the Catherine Puller stamps, which y'all will see me use in a minute. So this watercolory looking paper was also done on the gel press, but done with oxide inks. And I actually did that over on my Patreon page a couple months back. And so if y'all would like to join me over there and become part of my Patreon community, I would love to have you over there. And so yeah, I'm using lots of these prints that I made in this layout, and it makes me super happy because I love the way that this layout came together. The thing that I'm doing right now is this ink, which is the VersaFine black ink. I used it. It worked perfectly over top of this pink background because that was the oxide inks. But this yellow is an acrylic paint, and it's kind of, the ink was not drying over top of it. So what I decided to do was just put some clear embossing powder over that, and then heat it with the heat gun and melt that embossing powder so that black ink wouldn't go anywhere. I tried drying the black ink before I used the embossing powder, and it still was not drying. I tried to dry it with my heat tool, and it still wasn't drying. So the clear embossing powder makes it shiny, which I actually like the way that looks. And it also just made that ink stay in place, and so I wouldn't get it all over my fingers and then transfer it to other parts of my layout. So now I am going to pull out my dies for this particular stamp, this flowered stamp. The other floral stamp is actually from Unity Stamps, I believe, and I actually end up not using any of those on my layout, so I'm just using the Catherine Puller stamps, or the stamped images, but I do hold on to the other ones because I can use them on an upcoming layout, or I can use them to make a quick card. And so Right now I am just going to die cut those flowers, and then here in a minute, with the magic of editing, I am going to go ahead and be pulling out another print that I created. And I think that this print was actually just the leftover paint from my brayer, and I really love the way that it looks with all the different colors on it. So I'm going to use those dies from the Catherine Puller dies. I will have all of these things linked below, by the way. If y'all ever want to know where I got something or what I was using, please just look in the description. And they are affiliate links, so they do help support my channel. So I am die cutting some leaves with that print, and I really love the way that that looks. So now that the clear gesso is all dry, I set that aside to let it air dry while I did all of the stamping and die cutting, and it dried pretty quick because I put a very thin layer on it. So I'm very fast, I'm figuring out that I'm not liking the size of these. They're too big. They're taking up too much space for what I want to do. I had this idea, sorry guys, I had this idea to do some mixed media on the background, obviously, because I did the gesso. And so I really didn't want these like strips to cover up too much. So I'm trimming them down right now, but I'm actually going to end up trimming them down later in the video even more, because they still were just taking up too much space. I am only documenting one photo here, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a little backstory behind the photo. So a little bit about the photo. It is my craft desk, and it's my art journal open to a blank page with a whole bunch of supplies sitting out behind it. And I decided to do the black and white because I knew that I wanted to use all of these brighter colors, and I really didn't want them clashing too much. Now, normally I don't really care, to be quite honest. Normally I don't try to match the photos to the colors necessarily. I just kind of do what I like and what I think looks good. And so, but this one kind of meant a little bit something to me because it was the first time that I was doing art journaling live. I took a photo right before I went live for my little scrapbook store and posted it in our group. And so, yeah, it means something to me to share my heart and to share things that I wouldn't have in the past. I wouldn't have shared my art journaling in the past. And so it was a kind of a big moment for me to do it live in the moment. It's hard. So what I just did was I took some Lindy's Stamp Gang. Now this one that I have is super, super old. Like when I say old, it's probably like 8 years old, and it's a spray. So the spray nozzle does not work anymore. It's clogged, and I probably could unclog it, but it's not that big of a deal. So what I did was I just took a small piece of packaging and then just kind of put just a little bit of that spray on the packaging and then sprayed a little bit of water on it. And then I just use the smushing technique, or kissing technique as Vicki Boutin calls it. And I get this really, really pretty watercolory kind of look. And it's got a little bit of shimmer in it, but for the most part, it's matte, except in a couple places. And it's just so pretty. The color is gorgeous. And like I said, it's really old, but it still works perfect. And it's called Delphinium Turquoise. But like I said, this one that I have is super old. And yeah, so now I am going back and trimming those papers down yet again. And now I'm going to use my very favorite scallop edge punch. I don't think that you can still find this punch necessarily. I'm pretty sure that I got it at Michael's probably like 6 or 7 years ago. This one's been in my stash for a while, and it is a favorite. I don't own many punches just because they take up so much room. But the ones that I do own, I absolutely love. And so I'll try to find something similar to this one, any kind of scallop punch, and link it down below as well. So I decided to go this way with the strips. Now you'll see here in a minute that that's actually going to change. I end up playing around with it, and I just don't really love the way that it looks. I put it down and I was like, ugh, what in the world? I don't like it. I just don't, something just isn't right. So I kind of messed with the edges and kind of gave them a little bit of dimension, and it still wasn't looking right to me. So I was like, let's put the photo on. Then I turned it and I was like, oh, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. It's so weird how these things happen when I sit down to create something and it ends up turning out completely different than what I had imagined in my head, but it's just even better. Like this layout, I feel like is one of my most favorite layouts just because I just played with my products, and I think those are the ones that I like the most. I don't have any deadline for this, if that makes sense. I could just sit down and play and create, and I got to play with like bright colors, which is always my favorite, and I got to stamp and do mixed media, which are two of my also favorites, and I used up some like old products, I guess. So like my Catherine Pooler stamp, I've had that in my stash for quite some time. I've had the punch, the Lindy Stamp Gang ink. All of those things have been in my stash for a really long time, and it feels good to use them. It just does. It really does. I don't know if y'all feel that same way when you use something that's older from your stash, but it just makes me feel good. And also, I did not use any ephemera. This layout is going to be pretty basic with embellishments, but I know a lot of you already know if you follow me. If you've been following me, I'm not a super heavy embellisher, but I love bright colors. And so that is kind of, this layout is just me all over it. And I think that's why I'm so happy with it, because it just feels like me. So yeah. So anyways, while I was talking, I ended up putting some more of that blue ink to go all the way around. I just felt like it was not looking right with it just on the sides. And so now I'm going to go ahead and start putting these flowers down, and you'll see here in just a minute I'm going to end up only using 4 of them, and then the leaves that I cut out with the dies. And I love the way that this looks, y'all. It just makes my heart so happy to even just look at it. It feels good to use up the prints that I created on another layout. So I created something to use on a layout, and it's all me, which makes me super happy. So now I'm going to look through some of my phrase thickers for a title. I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to use as a title, and then I found this one. I did know that I wanted to use black because it's a contrasting color. I honestly would have used black cardstock instead of the yellow cardstock, but I didn't have any. That's what I wanted to do. So I saw the word create and I was like, yes, this is perfect. And so I was just going to leave it at that. And the title was just going to be create. And I was okay with that. But then I started thinking, and I saw the other word inspire. And as I was gluing these flowers down, I was thinking about how or why I do this, why I share my stuff. I share my stuff because I want to inspire other people to have fun. I want to inspire other people to be memory keepers and keep their memories for their families, to pass down through generations. And I feel like this is also, like I've said before, a therapy for me. So it really helps me. It just helps me, and it helps me relax and have fun. And so I like to inspire people in any way. And I had a subscriber leave me a comment this past week on one of my videos, and it was a really, really nice comment. And she said that I inspired her to start a YouTube channel. And that, to me, that is why I do this. Like, of course, I would still be scrapbooking if I did not have a YouTube channel, because I love it. And I scrapbooked before I had a YouTube channel. However, it just feels really good to have that kind of validation, I guess, and somebody saying, you inspired me. It feels nice. And so, yeah, that's kind of where the title came from. And I think the last thing that I'm going to do is some black splatters, just to bring that black back in more on the layout. And then that is going to be my layout for today. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you did, again, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And also, there will be close-up pictures at the end so you can see up close what everything looks like. And don't forget, I will have all of the products in the description, all of the ones that I can find in the description down below, as well as my Patreon community. It is the first of the month, so it's a perfect time to sign up to become a patron and become part of the community that we are building over there. We would love to have you. So also at the very end, there will be a couple videos that might also inspire you, and I hope that you will check them out after you're done with this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to spread love and be kind. I hope that you all have an amazing day. Bye!